Okay, and hello. This is another of my driving days. There have been quite a few in between my last video and this, but I haven't done any videoing. Well, anyway, in any event, here we go. I am on the last leg yet again of another car collection, another old car. Apologies. It has all been a bit of a rush, but I thought I shall set the video going and see. I may upload, I may not upload, it just depends. So for you folks who watched my last video when I was also towing a trailer with an old car on for Fiona, you'll have heard my story about my driving career and how it started when I was a young child, before I was a teenager. I'd mentioned about sailing. I don't really know where I'm going to go with this conversation, actually, because I was thinking yesterday when I was going to collect this car, which I collected from the Isle of Skye. That's the second time I've been there in a number of weeks, and I was thinking, should I video the journey there? And I thought, no, I won't video it, because I have nothing at all I can say that other people aren't saying better, and more, should we say, I don't know, well-known people or respected people, who are, I suppose we call them commentators now. Actually, I don't know if any of you guys, if you're all in the UK, then maybe somebody of my age could remember Letters from America by Alistair Cook. I think it was Alistair Cook, was it? Anyway, they were excellent. I used to listen to those many years back. I think he's been dead quite a long time now. Anyway, he was a commentator. And that's my point about commentators. There are many accomplished, educated commentators out there. I am just Mike. I'm not anybody any importance, of any standing. Nobody would recognise me anywhere in the street. And I thought, let's leave it to the people who are being listened to by the likes of myself, as it happens. But that led me on to a little jolly inside of my head, where I thought the problem with that is that if everybody like myself acted like myself, we would all be quiet. We would be listening to others, but we would be quiet. And perhaps in today's times, I mean, it's a bit of a crazy world, but that's another story, a whole other story to talk about. Perhaps in these times, if more people were actually speaking, if we could feel that we could communicate it outwardly. I mean, I suppose I don't mean speaking to our friends and so forth. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with speaking publicly, if you like. And this is, for me anyway, unnervingly public. These things that I say, they are going out to, okay, I don't have many subscribers, and I don't expect to get many subscribers, and I thank you, by the way, all you folks who have subscribed. Well, that is all you folks who are not members of my own family. And I don't get a lot of views, but I get some views. But the point is, I suppose, we need to publicly speak what we're seeing, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and stand the ridicule. And there's been plenty of ridicule. I mean, yeah, we've seen examples over the past few years about how we seem to be quite comfortable with ridiculing people who maybe act in a slightly different way to the way that we act, or the way that they act. Something that's different, something that isn't our view or our way. We seem quite comfortable with attacking them, quite vigorously, venomously attacking people. It was actually, that was quite a shocking time for me to see that. Well, it shouldn't have surprised me, of course. An oddity that really came to mind then was, it wasn't actually my thoughts. I don't have that many good thoughts. I I'm not that, I don't know, awake. I'm not that sharp of a mind. My wife actually said that it was interesting to see, sorry if my voice fades in and out a bit, it's because I'm looking around this tractor to see if I can actually get past it. I'm going to have a look around. Yeah, my wife said, Fiona, she said to me that it was interesting to see how people who, here we go, people who preach tolerance and inclusivity can be the most intolerant people, and that certainly was shown to be true, not just within the United Kingdom. So I'm not having a pop at anybody. I mean, one of the other reasons I don't like speaking is, I suppose it's the biblical, isn't it? I don't mean it in that sense, but biblically, he who is without sin let him cast the first stone, or something on those lines. And I'm very aware of that with myself. I'm a horrendously flawed human being, so flawed I annoy myself with it, because I really should know bloody well better. In any event, yeah. But people who preach tolerance, you would think, would be beyond that, outside of that, or better than that, shall we say. But no, people who are into inclusivity and into, tolerance and peace and so forth, they actually, well, we're quite surprisingly vitriolic to members of the same species. Brothers, sisters. I don't mean in the family way, although I do mean that as well. Husbands and wives, for heaven's sake. So yeah, we can be quite thoughtless and utterly, unbelievably intolerant. So, things that I say. By the way, I meander in my conversations, and I'm possibly quite boring and possibly have no direction. Follow with me, it's okay. It's just something to accompany the drive, and as light is failing shortly, well, just enjoy the drive. I will stop talking shortly. So, yeah, if we go out publicly and say things, we're going to get attacked, and it's uncomfortable. I don't like to annoy people. I don't like to upset people. But, well, maybe the world that we're living in has changed to such an extent that I really ought to just throw that all aside and say it is about time that we said what we were thinking. And if we annoy people, we annoy people. If we upset people, we upset people. But at least we might engage with some of them. No, I'm not naive enough to think that I'm going to change people's minds. I'm not even stupid enough to think that I might be able to make some people see sense, because I have talked to people, and it's amazing how they can agree with every word you are saying about something, whatever the topic, and yet the next day act as though they hadn't heard a word of it. It's odd. It's odd. We are living in an odd world. We are living in odd times. That reminds me of loads of lines out of Bob Dylan songs. Oh, there's a cliche, I suppose. Anyway, so talking publicly, I find it uncomfortable, and yeah. But today's times are particularly weird. I mean, we live in a time, I will get off this topic, I'm just fascinated by, we live in a time where a number of years ago, I remember there was a very large superpower, one of the superpowers, I'm trying to avoid names and so forth, I'm trying to do that. I remember that there was some published report, or paper rather, where they were looking at risks to their nation, all kinds of risks, strategic risks, economic risks, and so forth. And on the economic risks, they noted that a major European powerhouse, economic powerhouse, was in fact a major threat because of its economic strength and its I don't know, its engineering ability a good idea to neutralise that threat. And then a short while ago, a conflict started up, ostensibly about freedom. But as one of the fortunate, shall we say, coincidental offshoots was that an incident occurred out in some sea somewhere. I don't know where, but it was certainly a northern sea. It was a northern sea, and there was some ecological disaster occurred there. Man-made, of course. It was a man-made ecological disaster, which I'm sure fitted into some green agenda somewhere. But anyway, in any event, this disaster had the wonderful knock-on effect of seriously damaging that country's economic strength, and it seriously enhanced the economic standing of the country, which a few years before had said, this is a threat to us, we need to sort this out. These are all coincidences, I am totally sure, but I am living in a world where there is there's a preponderance of coincidences. There are so many coincidences that I become speechless with wonder. And wonder at them and at the fact that nobody else seems to be seeing them. That's not true, of course. People do. I suppose I mean people that I have everyday dealings with. Anyway, we are living in a completely bizarre world. I've heard in a few places the phrase "clown world." It certainly seems a bit like a clown world, but. It's not. There is no real humour to it. There's no slapstick to it. It's actually deadly serious. There was one time, wasn't there, when the cars have trouble with suspension, by the way. The air suspension is having trouble coping with the weight of the trailer. There was a movie. And I think they alluded to the idea that the lunatics were running the asylum. And I know that it's been jokingly said that that's similar to what we have today, but it seems to me that really what we have more is we have gangsters have taken over. They have their politician puppet people. This is worldwide. I'm not talking about the United Kingdom in particular, nor am I talking about the United States, or if you want to say talking about Russia, or talking about France or Spain. I'm just talking about the world. The politicians are in the pay of the gangsters who have taken over the system so that they can get legislation that allows them to do what their agenda dictates, which is to make vast sums of money by creating agendas and creating directions and myths and beliefs, which lead to their industries making vast amounts of money. And as an offshoot of some of those things as well, you can always throw in a few wars, because wars are fantastically good when you are facing economic troubles ahead. If you have severe economic troubles ahead, wars are always very, very effective at sorting that out, because certain people make lots of money out of it. Now, I don't mean industry, I don't mean entrepreneurs in the background are rubbing their hands. I mean all together. The governments are fully aware of it, they are part of it, they are the puppets of the gangsters, some of them are the gangsters themselves, and they all make money out of it. They all know what they're doing. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. They absolutely do know what they're doing. They also don't care if we know what they're doing. We have a bizarre situation where I am convinced that they know that we know, and well, you've heard this before, I'm sure. We know that they know that we know, and they know we know they know we know, and they don't care because they don't need to. Because ultimately, in the end, there's two things. One is they make the rules, and the second is that it would appear that the majority, not vast majority, but enough of a majority of people will simply do what they are being told, even when they know it's wrong. And that is utterly bizarre. I find it utterly bizarre. Part of the reason I live in the north of Scotland, the far, far north of Scotland, I have been there a long time, by the way, but it's part of the reason because there's very few people where we are. And we don't have television, so we don't watch news. Anyway, enough of those things. I ought to have talked about sailing, but I have been talking for 15 minutes. I've been rambling complete nonsense at you. You have no idea why I talk this stuff. I, to be honest, have no idea why I talk it either. I don't know if there's any point to any of these videos. I simply put them up. I find it hugely entertaining when I see that I've had views, because I have no idea why you folks are watching them. Possibly you don't either, or possibly you just find it amusing. I don't know. And maybe I'm an object of ridicule, perhaps. Anyway, sailing perhaps will have to be for another day, though I think I said in my last video when I spoke that it disappointed my father. I think it wasn't so much disappointing him actually, but I think inclusivity didn't work too well there. He bought a sailing boat, I think, to try and bond with me and maybe get me into going in a reasonable direction. I was a bit of a wayward child, a bit of a, I suppose I was a good child in some respects. So he bought a sailing boat and decided to teach me to sail, which he did. For about 2 weekends he taught me, and then I got the idea. And pretty much like his car, really, I buggered off with the boat. And from that point on, every weekend he would take me to this sailing club, and I would sail this two-man boat, only a small boat, I think maybe 14 feet long. I don't know what it is in meters. 3.5 meters? No, 4 meters. Something like 4 meters anyway. It's for two people, open boat, racing dinghy. And I sailed it on my own. Left him to drink tea with other people in the clubhouse of the sailing club. And it all went from there. Poor fellow never really got much of a chance to sail. But he took me most weekends, which I really, really appreciated. I think he got some peace. He'd take the Sunday newspapers and he would read them when he was there, while I was out sailing. But I appreciated it because it calmed me greatly. It really calmed me because I felt, I suppose, at that young age, I was very young then as well, like I was with the cars, driving the cars. I think I felt at one, I know it's an awfully cliched phrase, but at one with the wind, with the water, with the waves, with nature. We acted in union together, in unison together. At the boat, myself, the wind, the waves. It was brilliant. It was exhilarating, but it was more a meditative thing. I still sail today, although my wife Fiona understands me well, and so I don't feel the angst perhaps that I did when I was younger, when I needed to sail. Now I like sailing. Before I needed to sail. Anyway, there we go. If you want to leave a comment, nobody leaves any comments, and no reason why you should. It's purely for myself. It's utterly selfish. If you leave a comment and say this is absolute nonsense, it's crap, that would be a help. If you say, okay, it's interesting but you ramble too much, try and keep focused, that would be nice. If you say we want to hear about the drives, we don't want to hear about anything else, say so as well. I would appreciate it, just because if I just keep putting these videos up, then I know I'm not annoying anybody. So, in the meantime, I don't know what time we are on now over here. We're around about 8 o'clock, 2000 hours. And I still have a long way to go. I will probably let you have a short while of driving in blessed silence. It's been nice talking to you, and enjoy the silence. Goodbye for now. Okay, and I shall stop the camera at this point. I'll explain, just let me explain, the rattling noises you're hearing is not because the car is falling apart, it's simply because in the back of my car I have a Land Rover Discovery 3, for anybody who might want to know. In the back I have a lot of panels, body panels for a car. The car I have on the trailer that I'm pulling behind me. They're spare body panels, but unfortunately they are rattling around and I didn't do anything to stop it. So that's what the rattling noise was. If it annoyed you, I apologise. Say so in a comment. I will try harder. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you all later. Speak to you all later. Bye bye for now.